it's unusual, especially at my old age, to have somebody come along and really change the way that you think about the natural world and the farm that you have around you. Jairo Restrepo has been coming to Ragmans for the last 3 years, and he is somebody that really challenges the way that you see the natural world, and he gives you an interpretation that is based on the microbiology around you just as much as anything else. So he takes you down into the minutiae, into the detail.
We have to understand that our agriculture is totally dependent on inputs, and those inputs come from the transformation of oil. So the first thing we should do is have a diagnosis of this dependency. So one of the first things the organic agriculture does is to look for independence of these external inputs, and we try to maximize the local resources inside the farm. Coming from there, we start working with practical tools. These practices, we can resume them as no-till or not moving your soil, less mechanization, more diversification of your crops, and putting up more permanent crops, according with the conditions of every place.
Jairo was a conventional scientist in the 70s in Brazil, working on pesticides, and he realized that his work was mostly destroying natural systems, and there was a sort of revelation that he had, and since that time he's been working to preserve and regenerate biological systems.
So the problem with industrial agriculture started when we separated grains from animal production. So when the animal part and the vegetable part get integrated in a farm, recovery can happen quicker. For example, with one cow we can sort out the problem of fertilization and nutrition of 10 hectares. If I start processing better the shit of this animal, I can achieve nutrition up to 50 hectares. And in that process we save more than 100 tons of oil, because we are saving more than 25 tons of chemical fertilizers.
His work draws on the traditional knowledge of South American farmers and Japanese farmers, and also importantly on his scientific knowledge. So his techniques are affordable, accessible, they don't rely on the agricultural supply industry, but they're also scientifically rigorous and they're scalable. One of the main reasons why I find Jairo Restrepo's teaching inspiring is it's about equality, and it's about food sovereignty and the right to healthy food for all people.
Biology has always been tolerant. We are intolerant with life. Life is not a merchandise, it's a natural value. Life is not in the market, it has no price. It's not an object. Life is an expression, and life is an expression of something miraculous. For the scientists, miraculous things don't exist. Scientists, when they cannot justify something, they deny them. And this is how I see industrial agriculture. It denies the possibility of the questioning. So life is beautiful because it's full of question marks. Industrial agriculture has a very precise language, and that makes that people are tied up. Industrial agriculture is a dishonest agriculture. I take something good out of the soil and I may give back a different thing to it. And I think it's really good when I come to this farm to do all these experiences, because here we have the possibility of discussing an honest agriculture. And to do this honest agriculture, we need to know the earth, the soil, to know the quality of the food we eat, and in this relationship I have to give back to the soil. I have to be honest of what I take, I have to put back. So that's why the activities we are doing here have to do with recovering the concept of honesty in agriculture. Because if a food doesn't nourish you, it's not an honest food. Because the consumer is looking to buy something to nourish. He was confident that someone was putting the nutrients inside the food he is buying. And it's dishonest because at long term it can compromise itself. So when a person, because of the food it buys, can have an illness, I think it's a relationship of dishonest agriculture.
There's no silver bullets with this technology. It's a collection of different technologies that Jairo has brought together. Things like biofertilizer, mineral brews, and bokashi, but it also goes hand in hand with plain good management of systems. So for instance, when he's working here at Ragmans and teaching courses here, he'll look at the orchards and he'll say, well, what does this farmer need? You know, and one of the things that he's done here is to produce biofertilizer, which he also teaches us how to do. And that's about using the anaerobic fermentation that is similar to what happens in the gut of a cow to make minerals more available to plants. And then once this is fermented out, it's sprayed on as a foliar spray, and that's how we provide nutrition and fertility for our orchards. Another thing he does is mineral brews, and so that might be looking at our orchards and saying, well, if there's a canker problem in the orchards, we can make our own lime sulphur and then use that as a paint to actually start reducing the canker problem in the orchard. So he's very much centered around the farmer and what the farmer needs.
So another tool that we use in organic agriculture is mineral brews to reestablish the protection mechanisms of plants. So we work with remineralization of the health of the plants. We work with the elaboration of organic amendments in small to big scale. We stimulate the cover crops in the soil in a diversified way and in relationship with vegetables. We work also with diversification and protection of seeds. So the whole of these practices allow us to reconstruct or rebuild an alternative to the model of industrial agriculture. What is important about this is that you get impacts in the short term, and the most important, that people understand what they're doing. It is important to do the things, but with this proposal we start understanding what are we doing. So what we don't want is that the organic agriculture tools are just another package. In industrial agriculture, its only participation is to buy. In industrial agriculture, you don't participate, you just buy commodities. 1 hectare of organic agriculture uses 6 times less energy than an industrial agriculture. And nowadays, energy is an expensive asset. So in these courses, with all these tools, we're trying to learn to harvest the sun's energy. It's the art of harvesting the sun. Industrial agriculture is a middleman for the sun. All they try to sell you is a kidnapped sun. At the end, we're just eating sun rays.